So I would love to talk about how we can operationalize some of these best practices. Because as organizations, we're probably at level 2 right now. We've been forced into this distributed workplace. This isn't necessarily something that we have chosen for our enterprises, but here we are. So if we're going to make it work, if we're going to embrace it, if we're going to get to level 3 where we're adapting to the medium, or if we're going to even get to level 4 where we're embracing asynchronous communication, we need first to be able to adopt those cultural and communication strategies that Skip talked about in general. But then we also need to take these tools, learn them, get the technical expertise that we need to be able to thrive in a distributed work environment. So I'm going to talk about one of them right now that is, I think, a key game changer in how we can work as a team. Now, let me see if I can grab our, that didn't work out quite right, did it? And I will change our layouts.
Oh,
there it is. I know, that's a little trippy, isn't it?
That happened to me when I first shared. So.
There it is. All right, so we're going to get rid of the slides.
For me to unshare my thing?
Yes, if you could.
I don't know, how do I do that? There you go.
Great.
Hopefully that helps.
Yep. And then we've got this guy here. And I will move over. You shouldn't see that never-ending nexus that is our webinar now. Is that the case?
Looks good for me.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks for that feedback there, Skip. So what I want to talk about is one way that you can really operationalize this, because of all the tools that we had mentioned. Look, most of them are things that you probably already have at your disposal in your enterprise. Of course, we've got the good old-fashioned telephone. We have email. You're probably or potentially using some form of Messenger or Slack or alternatives there. You're using Zoom meetings. You might have other webinar software as well. But my guess is at least one of those communication channels makes your heart skip a beat, and you're thinking, geez, if I were in my office, a 2-minute conversation by stepping into the cube of my colleague down the road here is a heck of a lot more efficient than a email conversation that's 10 or 15 replies long. Or, every time I pick up the phone and I talk to my manager or I talk to the subject matter expert that I connect with regularly, I've got to have 5 minutes of small talk with that person. And darn it, I'm under deadline right now. I'd love to avoid that 5 minutes of small talk so I can actually get the work done that I need to get done. So how do we break through some of the challenges that are associated with these communications channels? How do we enhance them? And how do we take the best of what in-person communication provides to us? And the answer is what we're doing right now, which is video. People use video, engage with video at a rate that they don't audio and a rate that they don't text for obvious reasons. So much of those constant tennis matches and email threads are because people are missing the full breadth of the context of the communication that you have. And when you have a scenario where you're able to see someone else's facial expressions and you hear the tone in their voice and you see their body language, and they might be presenting a visual aid like I'm presenting a visual aid right now, you add so much more context to that conversation that you prevent all of those challenges that you see with a zillion text messages or getting slacked constantly about the same thing that you've provided the answer for to your manager a million times over already. Well, you can create a more efficient distributed workplace by taking the best of those in-person conversations and replicating it using video, just like we are right now in this webinar. But you can also use it in a quick, do-it-yourself way that's going to streamline your corporate communications and can help with your sales and marketing teams just the same. So I'm going to walk through practically how we do that as an organization, how you can get started today, and how you can get started for free. There are tools out there that don't cost you a dime. And as I noted, they are DIY friendly, especially as you're taking baby steps to using video in your enterprise. Just a quick little sneak peek. This isn't just for funsies. This is something that I actually want you to do and implement in your organization. So at the end, I'm going to challenge you to create one of these videos and share it with me. A lot of people are camera shy. Skip,
it takes a little getting used to.
It does. But at the same time, here we are out in the world for the most part, and we go to the grocery store, and guess what? People see you at the grocery store, and you sit down at dinner with your family, and your family sees you at dinner, and when you're having your team meetings and so forth, that they see your face. So I promise you that in many ways, it's no different than.
But my hair's got to be perfect, man.
Oh, you know what? My hair is always perfect. I'm speak for yourself. I should say that we are lucky in that regard. I know a lot of people who don't know how to deal with their basic maintenance of their haircuts and other stuff during coronavirus, and they think, "Me, goodness gracious, I look like a little out of sorts right now." And we're lucky in that regard. So I do have a suggestion for a barber for anyone else as well, but I promise you probably don't want to take that suggestion, but you might want to take my suggestion in terms of video and using it for your organization. A tool that I use and a tool that I would recommend is Vidyard. There are other tools out there. So if you're already using those, great. If you don't know where to start, let's start with Vidyard, because I'll walk through that process with you here of how to get set up and using that today. First off, you'll want to add the browser extension to your browser. Here I am inside the Chrome Web Store. All you got to do is search for Vidyard. That's Vidyard. And here you will see the options that come up. At this point, you'll add it to your browser. It's going to go through the normal process here. If you've ever added an extension to your browser, with any luck, your employer gives you these opportunities to add these types of extensions to your browser. If not, you might need to bug IT to get some access to this sort of thing. Now,
so this is one of those things that you want to upgrade your technology for remote work, and you may have to make some adjustments in company policy or those IT restrictions. Absolutely.
That's right. That's right. So, but once you get started with this, once you get the AOK, or heck, maybe you're working off your own laptop and it does much better. Give it a shot. So once you add your browser extension in here, this is skipped over a couple steps for me because I already have a Vidyard account. Mm-hmm. Again, not something that you are unfamiliar with in this process. Anytime you sign up for a new application or service, you know what? They're going to try to grab your name and your email address. Vidyard is no different. You do that. You set up your login. They want to know this information. If you don't want to share it with them, you don't have to. I'm going to skip. And they wouldn't be a video company, a video platform that provides these sorts of solutions if they didn't show you a video to celebrate that you have signed up for Vidyard. And at this point, you're all ready to rock and roll. You can create your first video. I want to go through that process with you now, just the same, about how to create your first video, because again, this is going to be our challenge here at the end is you're going to create a video. It's not going to be long. It doesn't have to be elaborate. And it's really simple to do. So let's walk through this process. Now that we've added it to our browser, you're going to see it up here. One of these are going to be yours. For Vidyard, it's that little green guy, and we click on him. It's going to give us some options. Right now, I'm only sharing my tab. Typically, I share my screen. When I'm sharing my screen, that means I can jump back and forth between different applications, and people are going to see what's there. So, probably a little thing that you might want to make sure that your computer is distributed workforce friendly. Hey, my desktop background is my dog. So if you want to see my crazy my crazy pet, sure. That's a perfectly fine desktop background, but just make sure you got everything set up to share. That's good for you and your colleagues, and what you wouldn't be upset if your grandma saw just the same. So get your screen set up. Or you can share your camera only. It's going to show you a live preview. Right now, you might see that it's actually pulling in a different camera than what you're seeing as part of the webinar, but you can adjust that just the same. Here's a drop down. I'm then going to choose my much nicer camera. You can see a much better picture of me. I have invested in a very inexpensive light that shines back from behind my desktop computer, and that will gives me a lot more color, maybe makes like a better experience for people that are watching the video. But honestly, the video quality is far less important than the audio quality. So if you want to spend a few dollars on something and you're thinking, geez, do I need a nicer camera? Do I need some lighting, or do I need a microphone? The answer is you need a microphone. If your audio isn't quite up to snuff, that's something that you want to get fixed. People have much lower tolerance for that versus some of those video pieces. All right, we've chosen that. Now let's say we're back at the screen, and for whatever reason we really don't want to show our camera. Sometimes at night, if I'm burning the midnight oil here and it's 10 p.m. and I just look like I'm a shadow anyway, you know what? Maybe you just remove the camera there. It doesn't need to be on there. But typically, I would suggest having it on there, making sure you've got your camera set up and your microphone set up here just the same. Now, I'm going to turn the microphone off for the sake of this demonstration, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to want it there. The other really neat thing that I think is useful for corporate communications and teams is you get to see who has actually seen your video. So, we talked a little bit earlier that, World According to Ben, World According to Skip, it's maybe a little much to put those keystroke monitors and such on a distributed teams computers, and instead we should be looking at the results that our teams are getting. At the same time, it might be nice that if you sent your colleague a video to see that they actually clicked on it and saw that. And we can get those kinds of analytics. And especially in a sales environment where if you're on those sorts of teams, where you're in business development, where you're in marketing, where you're in sales, and you're sending people videos, seeing those sorts of analytics, seeing that you're getting engagement with those videos is key to be able to determine the ROI, since we're sticking with that acronym here today. I'm going to get started with this recording here, and we can see how this process works. Oops, jumped me back to my old camera. We're going to get started here. You know what? I might stick with the old one just in case there's a conflict between these cameras. We're going to get started. I'm going to choose to share my entire screen. Now we're sharing it. It's going to give us 3 minutes. As we said earlier, geez, this might not be the most natural thing in the planet for you. So it's going to give you 3 minutes to collect your thoughts, maybe shake it out a little bit, give a big deep breath so that you're ready to start your video. And here we are, we're recording the screen up here that we have. We're recording me talking. You're seeing some motion back and forth. You know what? As this is a new thing for you. Maybe you stutter over your words just like I stuttered over my words. Now, for the most part, as I said, people are super forgiving about video because this is how we talk as people. As much as I would love to say that I am always articulate, never make grammatical mistakes when I speak with others, that's not the case. And so people, when they're listening to video, when they're hearing the words that you're saying on a recorded video, they're a lot more forgiving. That's something else to think about. I have found video to be so much faster than some of these other communication methods. How long does it take you to send an email of substance, especially if you're going to follow Matt Mullenweg's advice to make it succinct? It's easy for me to throw a bunch of words on an email and click send, but when it's important, when I need to think about how I'm structuring the email when I can't have a typo. Goodness gracious, how long do you agonize over every single last typo and you just can't hit that send button because there might be something that's a little bit off grammatically or a misspelling or some sort of typing error? Well, with video, you don't have to worry about that. So you can crank out some really high impact content very quickly and share that over email. You've communicated in a much fuller, richer way, and you've done it faster than you could have otherwise. But let's say, this is your first time here and you think, boy, I really went off the rails. It's time for me to restart, time to start again. Vidyard has this nice little restart function here. So we're going to click it. It's going to ask you if you want to give another try. Great. Sends you back to the beginning where now I'm sharing my entire screen. We're back to the countdown. And
I love that.
That's right. It's just people to get back to square one in this process. That there's no excuse. You can goof up. Great. Now you can start over again. Now we're going to cut this off here. We're happy with the video that we've recorded. Going to click pause. Now it's going to take us to another screen where it's going to start the encoding process. It's going to host this video for us on Vidyard's page. Now, when you want to get into some fancier bells and whistles where it's hosted on a subdomain of your entity's domain. So, for example, when I share a video, it gets shared from video.noboundsdigital.com. When you're using the free tool, it's going to come from Vidyard's website. But now we got an opportunity to put some updates here. So I'm going to put video for our webinar. I can't type on here either. So as I noted earlier, I agonize over those darn typos. We can create any sort of description or tags so that when we come back to this, we can take a look at videos that are associated with some of these tags. And this helps with sharing just the same. You can see we're still encoding and going through this process, especially the animated thumbnail. But at this point, now that we've added the description or title, you don't necessarily need those either. If this is just a quick one-off communication that people aren't necessarily going to need to refer back to, all this stuff is extra bells and whistles. You can just get to this page, quickly click copy link, and now you're off to the races. You can put this in an email. You can put this in a Slack channel. You can put this inside of chat, and so on and so forth. But what I want to do in an email is typically I like to include the thumbnail, really brings people's attention to the video, gives it a little extra flavor inside of your emails just the same. So right now the animated thumbnail is still loading. So we're going to just use this static thumbnail. When I go into share, I can click copy link and thumbnail, and now I'm off to the races. It gives you a number of other sharing options here, just the same. So let's say, you were using this for communications with a customer and you thought, well, hey, I don't have to say, hey, Jane Doe or John Smith, here's the information about our service or our product and how to fix it. You can omit that part and just talk generically and say, oh yeah, here's a micro demo of this feature. This is how you use this. Or for anyone who's having an issue with this technical difficulty, this is how you resolve it. And now you have this link forever and ever, amen, that you can go back to and send to anyone else who might have this problem, anyone else who might have this challenge. So you're able to streamline your communications this way. We use this as a team at No Bounds Digital for our new staff person onboarding process. We created a series of emails, and then we augmented those emails with video. So now they get to see me and connect with me as the owner of No Bounds Digital. They get to connect with other team members. They get to experience an onboarding process that's automatic and streamlined, but at the same time is really engaging and multimedia rich, just the same. So here I've copied this link and thumbnail. Let's say I think it's something worth sharing on LinkedIn just the same, using that sort of use case that I talked about just now. Great. You can share it directly to social media channels, put it on your YouTube channel as a corporation or an individual, or share it on a one-to-one email. Now, when you share one-to-one email, it's just going to by default use that initial link, which is why I like to copy this link and thumbnail first, because as I say, when you do that and you switch that out, you get this nice engaging image. And now that our animated thumbnail has loaded, we can choose that just the same. We'll pull that into our email, and you can see in the background, it's a little bit small probably for you, but you can see there's that welcome video from Vidyard that's moving around. You can see my head bebopping, so on and so forth. Those sorts of tools are great ways to bring people's attention to the video content that you're creating as a team and with other individuals. So those are some key components to how video works for you, how you can get started with video. And as noted, everything that I talked about here is free. So there are certainly some bells and whistles. I talked about the domain. You're not going to see this option to download the video with the free Vidyard Chrome extension, but it is a possibility if you want to upgrade Vidyard at some point in the future. There's also some other tools that are at your disposal. You can click the videos tab to go to your video library. So as I noted, all those videos that you might want to come back to because you can see some utility the next time you hire a new employee, or the next time someone asks that same question of you, if you're in customer support, or people come to you as a technical subject matter expert in your organization, and you know what? They have similar questions each time. You can take this video, augment it with some text to talk about their individual use case, their individual situation, and now put that, but use this as an opportunity to save time and at the same time communicate in a really rich way in your organization.